thrilled to be here for our first masterclass event, and really happy that it's you, Sylvia, that we get to have on for this first one. So please forgive my rookiness and my excitement, because I am really excited for this. So, but I do want to do a quick introduction for those of you who don't know Sylvia. I can't imagine who that might be. But we most definitely love all the work that Sylvia has done, from Tool to Johnny Cash to Red Hot Chili Peppers and Prince, and all the work you did with Rick Rubin is really fantastic stuff. And everything from garden hoses and tannerite to potato microphones, and that's just stuff that nobody else does. So it's one of the most exciting things about your special sauce that you add to everything. So without further ado, we're going to get this thing started, and we're going to have questions from the audience. So anybody that's out there in Facebook Live land, if you have a question, just drop that in the timeline there so you can let us know, or you can message us through the Cordial Cables Facebook page, and I will drop you the invitation, and then you can come on live with Sylvia and ask your question. Keep it clean, keep it real, keep it nice, keep it short, and let Sylvia do all the rambling, okay? Because that's what she's here for. So, but
can I just talk a little bit about what I've been working on?
That's exactly what the next thing was.
All right.
I cannot wait to hear what you've been working on.
Okay,
so bring it on, Sylvia.
My partner and I, Chris, and we purchased the world's largest vintage microphone collection, and it's quite astounding. I have a camera pointed at some of it right here, but there's over 1,800 microphones, vintage mics, and we're going through them one by one, and we're documenting, we're inventorying, documenting, and then studying them to find out what they are. It's a huge endeavor, but it's so exciting because I can show some of these mics to you tonight. If you have any questions about mics, then that we have a lot of opportunity to talk about mics tonight. The other thing is the studio here at the museum is getting very close to being finished. And it's my turn now to be pinning Elco cables. So I've got my Cordial cable here, and I've got an Elco connector that I'm putting these little pins on, and it's so tedious. And let me see if I got the connector over here. But I've been at this table now for several days, and I'll need to put little crimped pins on the ends of each of these little wires, and then load that into this receptacle, and then load it into this hood, and then that'll hook into the patch band. I've got 4 of these to do. It's a lot of work. Anyway, so I've been busy doing that and really honing my skills at wiring, and it's a big job. I'd love to show you what the studio looks like. Let me see if I can point a camera over there really quickly. Here, take a look at this, and let me just get over there. This is here. Let's see, like here, right here. Okay, here, take a look at this. Here's the studio area.
Yeah.
You can see it's massive, full of strange and wonderful pieces of equipment, lots of little mixers and big mixers. And when it's all wired up, it's just going to be crazy good. Anyway, so
awesome.
Fun for the future, huh?
I especially like the color. You know, all the microphones and stuff aside, that's a beautiful color. Whole place. You know what, like guitars, what color is it?
Yes, what color is this mic?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's been
getting some questions going, Sylvia. So
okay, yeah, let's do questions.
Keep on going, and I'll get a couple of those going here in just a moment.
Okay, fantastic. Well, some of the most exciting mics that we've gotten in the collection have to do with Western Electric and how they developed the condenser mic. A condenser mic was first commissioned by Westinghouse, and then Westinghouse and Western Electric worked together developing the condenser mics. This is one of the very, very earliest condensers. And I'm going to bring it over here and change cameras so you can take a look at it, because it's really something else. Let me get this here so we can take a look at it. There we go. So I'm going to put the camera on this thing, and you can see it's a wooden box with a spring, a hoop on the top, and this capsule is a condenser. Inside the wooden box is an amplifier. I think I can actually open it up. It's a tube amp, so it was powered with this, and it's a condenser. So this is very early. Before these, the microphones looked more like this, which is a carbon mic, and it's completely different technology with the carbon. But so this early condenser, this was a big deal when it first came out.
Yeah.
And things happened very quickly, and you could see that people wanted something that was more streamlined in their recording studios and for broadcast. So Western Electric, within 5 years, started making this type of microphone, and this is the Western Electric 47A 53B style, and it has a canister which holds the amplifier, and then the top has the capsule. You can take a look at the top right there.
Nice.
And it's adjustable somewhat, a little bit, not a whole lot, but it would be typically hung upside down so that the heat would rise, because they didn't want the tube heat to muck up the capsule. So this was a hanging type of mic, but things still continued to develop quickly. Western Electric then, within the next 3 years, developed this mic. This is really something else. And let me switch cameras here. There. So this, all of a sudden, you know, the amp is in this canister, streamlined, and it has the capsule is much smaller on this too. And the exciting thing about this, now where did that, oh, here it is. So you can see the capsule there, and you can actually take that capsule off and replace it. So all of a sudden, you know, the mics are getting more and more streamlined and, you know, futuristic. Then the next step was this type of microphone, which is also a condenser by Western Electric. And this time, that same capsule is on the end of a much smaller body. So now we have a miniaturized tube in here, still a tube mic, but it's getting smaller and smaller. And
hey, Sylvia, what year are those kind of mics made? That
right,
last one.
Yeah, these first condensers were in the late 20s. The one in the wood box, late 20s, and then early 30s was this bigger Western Electric 47A and 53B. This is mid to late 1930s, right? And then getting closer to 1940, it started getting smaller and smaller.
Right.
And then we have probably the predecessor to all the mics that we know today. And this has the amplifier in a much smaller container, still having that same capsule. And this capsule became very famous. It's the 640 AA. And so I just am so fascinated at how things changed over time. Over 20 years, technology was changing really fast during that time. And across the ocean in Germany, um, George Neumann was making his condenser mics also. The Americans had a few years on him, but he made such a beautiful line of microphones. This is a CMB3, and it has also a removable capsule on here. This is a M55 capsule. But yeah, the technology was just racing. And really, honestly, things haven't really changed a whole lot since the late 60s and 70s. I mean, technology kind of took a pause there, and the manufacturing moved offshore into Asia, and innovation kind of slowed down a lot when that happened. So that's a kind of a beginner's overview of some of the mics that we have, at least in the condenser world.
Great.
I've
got a couple of related questions. Are you up for those?
Yeah, sure.
I haven't got anybody come in the video yet, but I do have a question from Michael Marins from MV Pro Audio. He says, "Are these working mics, and have you listened to them? Are there any standouts?"
Well, this is a fantastic question, because as we get all these mics here, there's a big challenge in finding all the connectors to actually make them, to be able to try them out. And you'll see, typically we're all used to XLRs now, but these mics all have the strangest pins. This is a 4-pin Amphenol connector. This is this massive, crazy, look at that. I mean, I still haven't found a receptacle for this so that I could wire it up properly, but I am slowly locating all the connectors for these mics, and at some point we'll be able to test them. So no, we haven't really tested them yet. This one has a totally different one too. Here, let me show you on the close-up here. I mean, that's completely different too.
No.
Yeah, but the great thing is that as I go through all the mics, I'm documenting what the pinning is and the connectors are, and then I put it on a list, and then I go and search out those things. I found some yesterday, like for instance, can I grab it right now? There's a couple mics up here that were a big challenge to get. Oh, Chris, can you grab something there? I'm looking for the stick, the STC stick, but it was right there, but now it's not there anymore. Oh well.
You know that mic?
You don't know that mic?
I can't think of it.
Oh well, that the ball and biscuit has the same connector.
Does it eat way too much?
Yeah, way too much calcium. All right, let's take a look at this. Well, this is an STC mic. This is a British mic, and the connectors on this British mic is really unusual. It's a 2-pin, and so far I haven't. No, I'm sorry, it's a 3-pin. Look at this weird connector here. This is one that I haven't had a lot of luck finding yet. I mean, it's 3-pin, but they're all in a row, right?
It looks like an RV connector or something like
yeah,
that.
Right? Anyway, so this one is a challenge, and we have several of these STC mics, so we're gonna have to find them. But they get expensive. Sometimes you find these, you're looking for these cables and you can find them online, but the cable costs more than the microphone to buy.
Yeah.
So that becomes an issue, but the whole thing is a huge fun challenge, and so we're having fun with it.
Nice. Nice. Let's see. I did have we do have John McLucas is going to come in and ask a question. John is a producer, writer, and YouTube guy from LA as well, who we've known quite a few years. He's going to actually be doing some production master classes for us here in the future. So we're going to have John come in and ask his question face to face. So
All right.
here we go. John McLucas on his way in. John McLucas, how are you?
Hi, John.
Hello, we are all connected through the internet. This is fantastic.
Wow.
It's a miracle.
Wow. It's lovely. You've been letting that hair grow, haven't you?
Well, I'm fortunate to have my girlfriend here to keep me presentable for YouTube. But beyond that, I'm getting away with as much as I can.
Yeah. Well, great. Go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah. So, first of all, hi, Sylvia.
Hi.
Great to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I was curious because I mean, first, this is quite the collection. I'm sure it's overwhelming, but I was curious, like, first off, what's like the master plan after you've like cataloged and like, you have the flavor profile of everything? Is there kind of like a vision after that?
We have some plans. We want to keep the collection together. We're not going to sell off anything that's core to the collection, but we will be selling some duplicates and surplus. And as we're writing a book on vintage microphones, Chris and I are documenting the history of each of these mics and details about the functionality and the technology behind each mic. And then we're putting it into this massive database that Chris has been working on. And he just finished out how many? 1,800? No, 2,900?
2,423.
2,423 microphones in the database so far. And at that point, when we've filled up and we've populated all the regions in the database, then we'll go live with that, and that'll be a resource for people online. But it is also research basically for the book. We kind of by accident ran into this massive collection while researching the vintage microphone book that we've been writing. And that's how we connected with the Paquette family. I met Bob Paquette, who put together this collection of microphones over a 50-year span of time. And as he passed, it's been 2 years now, the family, we were trying to help them keep the collection together and not have to sell it off. So I was trying to help them find a buyer that could just take the whole thing. And without having luck doing that, they said, well, listen, let's make a deal. You take it. And Chris, he made I don't know how he did it, but we have this collection with us now. And and it's a big responsibility, it's somebody's legacy, Bob Paquette's legacy. And it will become our legacy now too. We want to be the microphone people, and we want to know everything that there is, and then share it.
Yeah, no, that's like a tremendously, it's such an in-depth and cool history, like piece of our collective world. It's like the responsibility of a superhero almost. It's like you have this responsibility that only you can carry out, because it's like without this special like thing, it's like nobody else can do this book the same way that I'll be able to do this book.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, we know we have an advantage over everyone with this collection. And the other thing is, like, each one of these mics is really special on its own. They're just wonderful pieces of art and history and technology. And then you go back through like documentaries of leaders in history, and there's always a photo of a president or a dictator in front of a microphone. And now when we see those photos, and when we're watching documentaries, we're like, oh, stop, what is that mic? And then we'll try to figure out which it is. Like, for instance, the Mussolini.
With the rice carpet, the rice.
Rice, yeah, Mussolini. There's plenty of photos of him shouting into one of these things. I mean, this is a very early carbon mic, and this is a German-made mic, but they this was the top, the best of technology at the time. So all the leaders had those for a while, and then you get Roosevelt, and you see Roosevelt talking into the early Western Electric dynamic microphones and ribbons, and then all the entertainers and the beautiful ribbon mics, the RCA 44s, and so it's just it's history. It's a rich history and very interesting development. And then there's some oddball designs that never quite made it, which are super fascinating for us. Babe, can you find the glow discharge microphone?
I'll look for it.
This is like the craziest microphone.
Did you say glow?
What?
Did you say the glowing microphone?
This is a glow discharge microphone from 1920.
No, that's an old one, isn't it?
Yeah, this is like a 1924. I'm guessing, but I think it's around 1924. They were just developing, and let me get a close up on this. They were, in the middle of microphone development, and it became. Oh yeah, shine the light right through it, huh? Yeah. So you can see there's like 2 electrodes in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Maybe a little bit.
And the way this worked is that there would be a high voltage charge, and it would arc across this with plasma, basically plasma. You would talk into it, and the fluctuations in that would record, basically interpret your speech.
Whoa.
Yeah, mind blowing, right? So I was reading about this. I didn't know that this was part of the collection, but I was reading about it, and a professor from Princeton and I had been corresponding about rebuilding the cathodophone, which is a old German design that's kind of lost to history. And then I brought it to his attention. I've been reading about this other mic, this glow discharge transmitter, and the professor knew all about it. He's like, yes, there was only one in 1961, and no one has seen it since. And then we're unpacking the collection, and here's the freaking mic. We have the one and only glow discharge transmitter, and we have all the blueprints, and we have all the notes from the inventor too. It's
wow.
I've just
So cool.
It doesn't look like much, but holy cow, this is an important mic, and it will be. And next, as soon as we get through the COVID thing, we'll be going back to Princeton, and we'll be rebuilding this and trying to make a working model.
SM57 doesn't look like much of a mic either.
Oh yeah, you're right about that.
I'm wondering if you have the you got this like live voltage, and it's just kind of like chilling out in the air. If you've got a real spitty take, if you're gonna get like a zap back, or I don't know.
I think it was very dangerous, and not only that, but it put out a lot of ozone. So you'd have to have a lot of ventilation wherever you were using it, because it's kind of poisonous. But all for technology, right?
Well, no, that's super cool though. Yeah, like the truest one of a kind.
Yeah.
John, you had another question about how, I can't remember what it was, about how she chooses projects, or was that what it was?
Yeah. I had a question. I have them here in my notes.
All right.
Yeah, I was curious, since obviously you are one human, and that presents challenges when you have like a lot of opportunities on the table. So I was curious, like, how do you decide which opportunities or projects or things to accept or in decline, or like say go to my buddy, or just you smell bad, no thank you?
Well, a lot of it has to do with the, what they present as their ideas. Sometimes I'll start with just a few really rough song sketches, and you can hear from a demo if there's something there. Typically, if the intent of the music is good, and if there's a creativeness about what they're doing, trying to do something a little different, I'll gravitate towards that project. I want to hear the material, to know that I can do something and help them realize their vision. So it is a case by case basis. It doesn't matter what genre of music it is either. It's just, whatever it is, there's good music in all genres. So let's see, like I just spoke to someone yesterday about working on a project where they're playing halo drums with these strange things. And it's intriguing because it's an instrument that I haven't recorded before. Plus, they're very interested in going into some interesting acoustic spaces to do the recording. So I'm looking at, now that the COVID has kind of emptied out the theaters, I think this is a great opportunity to get into some really beautiful theater spaces and do some recording. Theater spaces or caves, cathedrals. I love the idea of using, going into a space that you can that will help interpret the music, for one thing, and imprint itself into the music, and recording that as an instrument itself. The room is an instrument itself. So the more adventurous, I'm game for that too.
Yeah, I saw your nuclear. Saw some of the nuclear clips.
Oh man, that was unbelievable. It was crazy good.
Or is that out by chance? Because I'm curious how that sounds.
Yeah, it is out. There's a great YouTube video of the song that we recorded, and really well done video of that. And then the record is out too, but I'm not sure if that version made it on the record. I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, wait. May I ask for the band and artist name? So I want to hear the nuclear.
Oh yeah, that's the band. The band is Thunder Pussy. Yeah, all girl, like noise rock band, and they're online. The video is called Satsop, or what is it called? Oh
yeah, yes, yeah.
You see it?
Satsop.
Satsop. Yeah, that's the name of the nuclear cooling tower facility.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah, it was a strange day, that's for sure. But we got into this abandoned nuclear power plant, and we went into one of their gigantic concrete nuclear cooling towers, and we were able to set up and record in there. And it was wow, talk about reverb. Yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I'm just curious because it's hard to get the whole crew out there. And then this is just a type of, did you guys like run like generators, or how you had power?
Miraculously, they had shore power there. We actually had extension cords, and I brought a Pro Tools rig with a Behringer X32 or something like that. Was that the number? I think it's like a X32 interface, and my laptop, and that's how we recorded it. It had 16 ins. It was really a nice setup, but it did require power, and luckily there was power on site. Sometimes I get thrown into a situation where there is no power, and so I have a system for that now, and I have a box called Sound Devices MX10 Mix Pre 10, and it has 8 mic pre's in it, and it's it's battery operated, and this mix, it's a Mix Pre 10 by Sound Devices, and it's portable, it's standalone, multi-track recorder, digital, and it records onto these little chips, you know, these little cards, and you just load it into your Pro Tools with its WAV files ultimately, and line it up, and it's just a miracle. And the mic pre's sound great, and it's so tiny. We actually did a recording, clandestine recording in a big art museum in Dresden, in Germany, and I had it hidden under my coat, you know, and we recorded punk rock vocals in front of Raphael's Angels, you know. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah, no, that I didn't know that there was a battery power like that.
Multi-track.
Water. I didn't know that.
With 8 mic pre's and 8 inputs, you can record 8 tracks at the same time, and you can link 2 together to make 16 inputs live. Yeah, so we're getting there. It's getting better and better.
Hey,
wow.
John, hang around a minute. We got a couple questions coming in, not from folks on video, but first one is from Hannah Roby. We love Hannah.
Hi, Hannah.
Hannah's coming out with her first video and her first big song release here in just a couple weeks. So I've seen the video. It's awesome, but we'll wait for that to come out in public. But Hannah asked what advice you might have for up-and-coming artists like her. I know you guys have talked at the NAMM show a couple times now. You're her hero at the NAMM show, and she keeps coming back. She's 13 years old, and we'll be having her on here later on at some point. But she asked what kind of advice you have for young artists like her.
Oh my, well, Hannah's very talented. I suggest that you write as much material as possible, and keep fresh with new ideas. Don't get hung up on any particular song, move on. And at the point when you can go out and strike out on your own, I know you're pretty young right now, so you got a few years still, but I suggest immersing yourself into an area, a town that has a lot of entertainers in it. And obviously that would be LA. I'd say move to LA and start playing every weekend if you can. Connect with other musicians. And it takes time. When you move to a new town, you have to give it 2 years and work, and you know, you might have to get a job that you don't want to do, but it'll allow people to get to know you and to trust you, and then they think of you also as like being the person to call when they need something, like or you just start connecting with people, and it takes that much time to get those connections together. I'd say writing and continuing to write, and then get ready to be a very social person and connect with people. It's important to be liked in this business, isn't it?
And
so
I don't think Hannah will have much of a problem.
No. I think Hannah's going to do great.
Okay,
yeah.
let's go. Mike Freed is sneaking in some listening and watching, and he wants to know how you're planning on chronicling all the mics. And you may have mentioned that before, but we may have missed it. You guys are planning on chronicling all of these mics. How are you going to do that?
Well, I started with just a Google Doc spreadsheet, and identifying each mic. Each mic has a tag on it. There's like an orange tag here. There's a blue tag here, and then so I can actually track each mic, and then that Chris is migrating all that information into this online database that is with WordPress. So it's a WordPress form basically that we can take all that data and then push it into any other kind of format that we want. So we'll be able to use it for the book. We'll be able to put it into its own standalone web-based database. So we're going to use the data in many ways, and then expand on it. And hopefully other people will submit information about mics that we're missing. And we, there's so many mics. It's almost impossible to document all the vintage mics. But I think we've got, what did he say, 2,400 so far? There's a lot of mics in this database. It's crazy.
No wonder Chris's hair is getting gray.
Man.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's awesome. I've got another question here from Shannon Casapia. She is watching, and she asks, what are some adversities you faced as a woman in a male-dominated industry, and how have you overcome those?
Wow. Well, it's an interesting tale because, a lot of people ask me that question, and I think people expect me to say that I was discriminated against in some way by the male, by men, but it's not really true. I think that men and women, and this gets into some deep philosophy here, but men and women are motivated by different things. And it's built into us. Women are motivated to build families. And so in that, you are almost always, as a woman, like working towards relationships and trying to stay social in some way. And that doesn't work in the studio industry. Unfortunately, it's very difficult to do this type of work and have a social life without getting in trouble. Because, if I'm working with a band, I can't really, go out with the drummer or something. That's just wrong. So it always causes trouble. So pretty soon, you're kind of isolated in the studio. You work for 16 hours a day sometimes, and not a whole lot of time off. And so it's very difficult to have relationships. So the women needed to make a choice between career and family. And at the point when a woman's career is just taking off, which is mid-30s, it takes a while to get the momentum going. So let's say you work, for 8 to 10 years from your mid-20s to mid-30s, and you're just getting, you're making good money, and you've got clients, and you've got your equipment all set up and everything. And just when you're getting going, nature says, hey, it's time. If you're going to have a family, you better do it right now. Because when a woman turns 40, basically, there's no way to have kids. And that is absolutely true. Anyway, so personally, I don't know what happened to me, but I was so involved in the studio and love it so much that a family is not that important to me. I have great relationships, but I don't have any kids. And I'm very happy with the way that's turned out. But most women are going to have to make that decision, and they will invariably choose family over career. And that's the way it is. I mean, that's kind of a harsh way of looking at it, but it's true. Yeah. So I honestly haven't had any real problem with discrimination as a woman. Maybe some guys feel a little like they want to tiptoe around me because they don't want to curse, but immediately in the beginning of a session, I'll curse worse than they could possibly ever curse. And then they're all like, okay. So I try to make them feel comfortable as I can at the beginning.
That'll do it.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got a question from Mundo. Mundo Julerat is a wonderful player from Las Vegas. Plays in the hot tub. Did I lose you guys? Oh no, you're there. Okay, I just had a little skip there. And he plays at La Rive down there in Vegas as well. He's a wonderful player. He's a Washburn guy, and and we love Mundo. So he asks, he's not on video, but he says he's doing a lot of simple gear demos and YouTube vids, usually with 2 to 4 guitars, 1 lead, and supportive guitar parts, bass, and drums. Any advice on how to make it sound big, since most people listen on iPhones? Also, what to do if the simple mix sounds noisy. So basically looking for advice on, like everybody nowadays, on how to make things sound good on over the internet. Challenge.
Well, what I could say is if you're using virtual instruments or if you're using DI instruments, everything sounds much smaller when it's just a DI. What I would recommend is to take those direct sounds and pump them through a guitar amp and mic it. For some reason, when you put sound into an amplifier and reintroduce it back into the recording, it sounds bigger, it sounds richer, it sounds furrier. So I suggest reamping. That's what you call reamping. Reamp the instruments. It's a real common thing with live drums. Sometimes I'll get a mix project where the drums were recorded in a very, very small room. And so I'll take those tracks and I'll pump them out through speakers and reamp them in a larger room, and then add that to the close mic'd original drum kit tracks, and it makes everything much wider and bigger and thicker. It really improves the sound. Now, when you're mixing, this is the trick. Is I always will mix with 3 different levels. I'll get the balances with a medium level of monitor so I can really hear everything. I'll turn it up just to check the low end, and I'll make it much loud, as loud as I can stand it, so that I can adjust that low end. Because if it's overwhelming on high volume, then I'm going to have to bring it back. That's for low end. And then I dial it all the way down to just like I'm barely hearing it. Now, this is the reference to your iPhone. And if you monitor your mix and you finish that mix at very, very low level, you'll make sure that the balances are good, and you'll be able to finish it so it sounds good on any little speaker. I also use a lot of compression on the stereo bus to really bring up all the quiet stuff. And sometimes that helps. Sometimes it's too much, but compression can really help with what happens to the iPhone or teeny tiny little small speakers, your laptop or whatever. Yeah.
Mundo says he's using amps with aux box, though the bass is direct.
Right. So your bass, you could bring out make it bigger and furrier with a reamp. And what did you say the drums were?
I think that he says that they are. Let me see here if I can get back to that. I jumped off of that page. I do not know.
Okay.
Don't have that. Yeah.
Yeah, if they're live drums, then it's a small room. You can pump it up with speakers reamping. Sometimes I'll actually do the initial drum recording with reamps happening at the same time. So I'll take the kick and snare drums. I'll record close mics on those, and then I'll also have a PA in the room so that I pump up the kick and snare into the room and then use room mics to capture that. So it's just like this big giant thing. And the drums just always sound fantastic that way. So
awesome.
Experiment.
John had to leave us. He had to go off to another Zoom session at 7. He's got another one too. But I did have a question here that popped up. This one was asked of me by a friend just in passing that had heard the Johnny Cash record. And he said it sounded like Johnny Cash was sitting in the same chair with me. And he said he wanted to know how you got that close, such a close sound. Everybody trying to get these gigantic sounds, these big, giant, roomy sounds, and that record was stunning because of the closeness of it. And I'm drawn to those as well. So I'm real curious as to a couple of the top end things that you might have done to get that closeness of that record.
I can tell you specifically what it was, and that was using on Johnny's voice a vintage Neumann U47 microphone and 2 compressors on the way to the recorder. So it was the U47 into a 1073 EQ module, EQ mic pre, and then out of that into first an Universal Audio 175B compressor, which is a tube compressor, predecessor to the 1176. And then after that, a second compressor, and it may have been a distressor, Empirical Labs distressor, or Uri 1176. I think it was the 1176. Anyway, so U47 mic, 1073, Universal Audio 175B, and then 1176, a Uri 1176 compressor. That brings every little nuance of Johnny's voice right up front, and I'm not shy about compression, and that's what you're hearing. Plus, that just seemed to be the best mic for his voice, and we recorded to analog tape, so it was 2-inch analog tape on that too. We tried to make it sound old school, you know.
Yeah, it was, but there was a crispness about it that didn't come off as old school. Again, I recognize it too. It was so close, and I really like that. You know, you hear some records that just sound like everybody's on the moon, and he certainly wasn't on the moon on that one. It was amazing. Yeah. So let's see. I thought I had one more question here. Brian said, multiple mic inputs for each channel with different EQ and panning on each. And I'm not sure what he means by that. Brian might need to be a little bit clearer on that one. And then I'll ask again. What, and Mundo says mahalo, Sylvia.
Okay. Mundo. Thanks for coming.
He's the flying Hawaiian for sure. He's a great guy. So one of the other things that popped up, you spent quite a bit of time with Rick Rubin, and I know you had to have learned some wonderful things from him. So I'd like to know what are the top couple of things that you learned from the 10,000 things that you probably, or million maybe, that you learned from Rick. What are the top couple of things you learned from a guy like Rick Rubin?
Well, Rick won't start a project until all the material is ready. So you might work a year on getting the songs together for that type of thing. I know that the Chili Peppers for the Blood Sugar Sex Magic record, I think they had demoed out at least 100 songs and maybe 200 or 300 songs. And then, so you can imagine if you have that many songs to choose from and you're going to choose 15 out of that, or maybe even 25 out of that, you're going to have the most amazing material for a record possible. And so I did learn that from Rick. And so when I start a project now, I say, you know, don't just give me 10 songs and say, we're going to record 10 songs. Give me 50 songs, and then we're going to work on those songs, you know, work on the 10 best, you know, or the 10 most important. So that was one thing that he taught me. It's also important to know the type of producer that Rick was compared to other types of producers. I come from an engineering background, and I use the technology to create the production ideas that I want. And so that's the engineer type of producer. Then there's the musician producer who is writing the songs, creating the music, and perhaps they're singing on it, or perhaps they have another singer come in, and they're in essence they're producing the track from start to finish, and then they're putting a singer's voice on it. So that's the musician type of producer. But Rick Rubin is not a technician, and he's not a musician per se, but he's a fan. So that I think is the third type of production style, is where your most important point of production is what is the song that you're recording. If you like that song, if you're a fan of this band and you like that song, then that's where you begin. And that was a big revelation, because he's not in there turning knobs. Rick is not turning the knobs, and he's not writing parts. You know, he might play a little piano on some things, and he's not singing necessarily. However, he can carry a tune pretty good, you know. But his most important attribute is deciding what material is going to be recorded. So, and I think as we're all kind of, all producers kind of take a little bit of this and that. So I will do some writing when I do my productions. And of course I'm a music fan, but I am heavy into the engineering side. But I think we all have a little bit of everything in our production styles. Awesome. But yeah, Rick is brilliant. He's brilliant.
That's a great point. I heard somebody say here a little while back that they spent 3 months in pre-production before they ever set foot in a studio.
Oh yeah, yeah. Not surprising.
I don't think I spent 3 months recording my whole record, but then that's the difference. Therein lies the difference. So I know that everybody always wants to know about your time with Prince. And I would ask you, before we got just a few more minutes, I'm hoping for a couple more questions, and I'll have that coming in here in a minute. But while I'm waiting on that one, tell us about your favorite Prince moment.
Oh wow, there were many. Prince was an amazing musician, and but he was extremely intimidating. Yeah. And he didn't want, he kind of played mind games with everyone all the time. So, and honestly, I would sit in the sessions and I played several different roles working with Prince, from starting as an assistant to mixing and recording. But I would bounce between these jobs, between studios with him in Los Angeles. And so one time I was working as an assistant in the back of the room, and I'd been involved in his projects. It was, I think we were recording Diamonds and Pearls at the time, but I was assisting another mixer, Keith Cohen, and I was sitting in the back of the room, and they were mixing a song called Get Off. And I didn't like the song. I thought that Prince had already finished this record. It was a brilliant record. And then he was knocking off some of the best stuff off of Diamonds and Pearls to replace it with this song called Get Off. And I just didn't, I didn't really like the song. So I'm sitting in the back of the room. It's not my place to give anyone any opinion of mine. It doesn't matter. But
especially Prince.
Yeah, right. So, but I would sit in the back of the room, and I'd have my journal with me, and I'd be writing in my journal, and my thoughts went into that journal. And I wrote on the journal. I was like, "There's Prince sitting on his purple throne, and he's taking this perfectly good record, and he's ruining it with this song Get Off. And doesn't he know that the record was already finished?" And I'm writing. And then Keith, the mixer, says, "Hey, Sylvia, come over here and patch this thing in to the patch bay." So I put my book down and I walk over to the factory on the other side of the room and I'm patching. And then I hear Prince saying out loud, "There's Prince sitting on his purple throne." And he's taking this perfect, he read what I had just written and he was laughing and I was terrified. I thought, oh my God, I'm so fired. And I grabbed the journal out of his hand and I was shaking, and I knew I was done for. But that in fact kind of tickled him. He liked it and he laughed and he laughed. And it wasn't but a week later that they offered me a job. They were going to pay my way to move to Paisley Park and be on staff there with Prince. And so it was the opposite of what I thought was going to happen. Ultimately, I turned down the job because I had just got connected into the Tool project and I was going to be producing Undertow, and I wasn't going to miss that. So I turned down Prince and I never heard from him again. You don't really turn down
I don't think he's probably gotten turned down by too many people. So
yeah, he's gone too soon. It's
no
a
doubt
shame.
about it.
So many
Him and a
people
bunch
have
of other
gone.
ones.
Yeah, right.
Okay, just time for a couple more questions. My old buddy David Story, I played with him in California in the '80s in a band called Moon Safari. We played, and he comes
Dave
kind
Story.
of from the new
Okay.
wave punk school type of thing. So we've just reconnected after not seeing each other for over 30 years. So
We
he's
know
listening.
Dave, right? You know
I'm
that we
not
know
sure.
him.
I think it's a different Dave Story.
Is it a different Dave Story?
I think so, but as long as they both play well, we don't care. They're both, yeah, that's
Okay.
the guy. This David Story, he asks, and I think this is an interesting question because I know how many guitar amps you use, and he's asking what is your favorite amp for guitar sound?
Ooh, wow. Just one? Oh.
Yeah, you only take one
I have to
on the
name
island
three.
with you.
I have to name three.
Okay, it's a big
Yeah.
island. You can take three
All
over.
right. Well, there's a company called Wizard, which is a Canadian company, and a guy who still makes these amps. It's a type of a Marshall knockoff, let's say, but oh, it's so good. So the Wizard head, which is a Marshall type of thing. The combo that I love the most is a matchless DC30, which it's just has this beautiful harmonic color. And then the third amp is a tiny little thing called a Piggy. And I don't have it here, but this little Piggy is the greatest blues tone, and it's a little tiny combo, and I don't even know who makes it. It's just
Haven't they done a lot with those small amps nowadays to make those sounds? Those little things just
man.
sound amazing.
Yeah, there's a company called um, Z ZT. Oh, what is it? ZT. I call it ZT, but it's ZT amps. And they make a little tiny combo that is super heavy and it just rips. It's so good. The ZT
I made notes on all those.
yeah, make notes on that because that company, it's an American company, but a guy in England turned me on to them, and that's why I know it as ZT because they say Z over there.
Yeah,
But
they do
it's
say Z
ZT
over across the pond, don't they?
Yeah, they're a little weird over there.
Hey, we're going to take one more question, I believe, before we get going, and
All right.
this is from our friend Brian Merrill, who is the sound engineer at the Sound Lounge. And I don't know how many bands he ran through there last year, but he makes everybody that comes through there sound great. And so we really love Brian. He's a great guy. So Brian Merrill, his question is two-part. As an analog lover, what are your feelings on the best way to achieve quality sound in the digital world? So let's ask that one first. Best way to achieve quality sound in the digital world, knowing that you're an analog lover.
Right. Well, I think that you can, with the choice of your microphone, make a big difference in reducing the digital sound of a recording, if that's what you want to do. You can also just go with it and just make music that has much more of a cutting edge than analog typically has. So it depends on the song and the music, on the musician, but I like to choose very carefully the mics that we use. There's an old RCA mic that I love called the KU3A. It's a ribbon by RCA, and it was made in the 50s. And this thing, it just, when you put a voice on it, it's just this big, round, furry, warm sound. And that kind of thing can really change the color of a recording to give it less of a digital sound. I've often, in fact, for 25 years, I've been using a vintage Neve recording console, and that has made a big difference because it sounds like the 70s. So using that in recording has really helped to reduce the sound of digital also.
Nice.
I mean, some people use, they pump everything through analog tape to give it some of that color, but I don't do that. I'm kind of in the Pro Tools world pretty deep, and I actually embrace it. Now I have this outrageously wonderful digital recording and mixing setup by Dangerous Music, and they have a setup. It's called the Mix Master Complete system. And what it does, and here's how I use analog in this system, is the converters all take my digital tracks and go out analog to 16 ounce. And then I've got a 16 times 2 summing mixer. And everything gets brought through analog down to 2 tracks. That's where it's all being summed. And then out of that, I'll put it through an old Western Electric 111C, a pair of transformers. And that adds that kind of iron sound to the mix. And that also really helps to reduce the brittleness that can happen in digital mixing. So the true secret to digital mixing, though, is to start with your levels pulled way back. So typically you have all your, well, I do this anyway. I was doing this, is I would have everything starting at 0, and then I would, slowly inch up to +2 and +3 on all these tracks while I'm balancing. And then you lose your headroom and you've got no place to breathe. And then it sounds really squashed and brittle. Well, what you do, and this is a revelation that just has happened in the last 3 years, is you take all your tracks when you first start your mix, bring everything -25 and start there. You have amazing headroom. Your mix breathes and it sounds much warmer and better. So there's a few tips there.
Excellent. And then in the end, do you just bring it all up? So you've got all this headroom with everything built down here. So in the end, do you just bring it all up in the output mix? Is that how you do it?
Well, you would be surprised at how when you start at -25 and as you build your mix, things kind of creep up. And pretty soon, well, you're still going to be less than 0, but you're not screaming, and at least you have room to move. And that's what you don't have if you start at 0.
The second part of Brian's question is, what do you think about the M32s and the other digital mixers like the Allen and Heath SQs? He's looking at getting an SQ7, so that's a big question nowadays. There's zillions of those digital mixers out there. What's your thoughts on those?
I swear by my Dangerous Music system. I think it's fantastic, and So I don't know about these other digital systems, but I can tell you that the Dangerous Music, the D to A's, the A to D's, the summing mixer, and then they also have an analog compressor and Bax EQ, which just adds a beautiful little smile to the mix. That is some great equipment, and so I can give you a thumbs up on that. Also, on the front end, outside of the digital recorder, the Rupert Neve desks are fantastic. I've got a 5088 console and a loop trotter console, which is a modular console that you can fit your own 500 series modules in. So you can get all the flavors, you know, from the smorgasbord of EQs and put them in this console. And so so on the front end, I'm having a lot of fun experimenting with each of these different manufacturers.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we are running just slightly over time, and I want to honor your time and
Well, thank you.
Close with a short conversation about a subject none of us have any interest in at all, which is cables. So just as a closer, I'd like to ask you a little bit about how the mix room wire up is going, because you're wiring it all up with Cordial cables, which we're thrilled about, and we can't wait to hear what comes out of there. But I'd ask you about you've been using cables a long time, and you've now been using Cordial for a couple years. I'd ask you what your thoughts are on choice of cables and how you feel about Cordial.
Well, the Cordial cables are the best. I mean, everything else is second rate. And so we've taken all our old cables and we've kind of delegated them to the chop block. I'm going to chop them and make adapters out of them. They're not really up to par now that we've got Cordials here. So, and the Cordials are just so well made. This is like, I mean, this is, you can't really tell, but it's so supple. It's amazing. It's just a really high quality cable. And so we're in the middle of our wiring. The patch bay is almost complete. And as soon as the patch bay is complete and I finish these Elcos, we'll be able to hook up everything. And I'll be talking a lot about this because this is a big deal for us. You know, to be able to build this room with this equipment in it and then not skimp out on the cables at the end is just that's the right way to do it. You just gotta follow through with the whole thing. So I love the cables.
Awesome. Well, it's really funny. As you know, I was a couple years ago. I didn't really care which cable I used, and of course, I got in with Cordial, and I started to realizing what a difference it truly made. And just like some of our other guys who have said, "Gosh, I can't believe that I didn't care about my cables before," you know, just to pick it up off the ground and say, I wonder if this one is better or this one is better, is a big deal for players who've been playing all their lives. You know, I mean, some of the biggest guys in the world that are now on our team.
And you know, I have a special place for the Cordials because I actually went to their factory in Germany, and I went and saw how they're made. And they're in Germany. They're German. I mean, you know, these are not like imported from Asia. This is European, just a real high quality. You know, the Germans make stuff that lasts, right?
Yeah.
So
we love them. Yeah. Francois will be happy to hear us talk about our friends in Germany. Hello, Francois.
Hello.
And everybody over there. So
yeah.
Well, I really want to thank you for helping make this inaugural event a lot more pleasant for me because I was freaking out. That's the very first one that I've done live.
Let's do more. I mean, we're just getting our whole little world situated here with the multi-cameras and the OBS. So it'll only get better. It'll just keep getting better. We'll do more.
you are most definitely a radiant being. I know that you know, we talk about that, and the way that you tell the stories that help people understand it, and use words like putting a smile in the mix. You know, I've not heard that one before, and now I'm gonna have to go do some work tonight and try to figure out if I can put a smile in a mix.
Well, you think about your graphic EQ.
I know.
It's just a little
I did,
smile.
and then you said that, I was like, that, you know, not just about the graphic EQ. It is just the way you express that and the way you treat everybody. So I really want to thank you for your time and your support of Cordial Cables. We're in this together. We are partners, and we are so happy to have you in the family. And I know Chris is back there in the background listening. So hi to you, Chris. Hope you're getting better. And I want to come out and visit you guys pretty soon.
Yeah, come on over.
I will be. I'll bring some pie and stuff.
All right.
We love you guys, and we'll catch you next time. And everybody out there on the Facebook feed, give a big hand for Sylvia. Ooh, the crowd goes wild.
Yippee!
Chris too, because I know Chris in the background did all the setup while she was goofing off talking to bands today. So take care, you guys, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you to everybody who watched. We'll see you next week with Terry Wallman. Go get you some Cordial Cables, cordialcablesusa.com. Thank you, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon, Sylvia.
All right, bye.
Okay, bye-bye.